r/AskReddit, what was the weirdest date you've ever been on? Went to the Church of Scientology, roped in with promises of free food. We were on a date for Christmas. So odd. Edit. They had us take the personality test and tried to break us up. They said we were completely incompatible, to the point of being toxic. We've been together 10 years lol. Was going to go to a bar with a girl I met on Tinder. She showed up 15 minutes late, which wasn't that big of a deal. Got out of her car, crossed the street, and then awkwardly shook my hand. Told me she forgot her ID at home, apologized, and then left. I went on a date with a girl to a bar and grill. The girl just got set free from a bad relationship. The bartender was her uncle, the server was her sister, and her fresh ex-boyfriend was there on a date with another guy. It's hard to say I was catfished, cause the actual girl was there, but so was her boyfriend and her friend she thought I would be a better match with. What made it more odd is she had sent nudes. Full face nudes, not photoshopped face swapped. I could see the chest tat on her in person, no mistaking that. One of the weirder catfishes I've heard about. I stayed long enough to have a beer, cause I just didn't see how they expected this to work. Sad thing her friend was not in any way unattractive. Just the setup made me think, I'm not waking up with all my kidneys tomorrow. And why go so far as nudes? I didn't ask first. When I was 15, a girl asked me to the movies. It was I Love You, Man. Her parents decided to attend too. Then one of the characters cursed like 10 minutes into the movie and the parents told us we were leaving. They took me right home, and that was that. I was talking to dude on Tinder and decided to meet up with him for coffee one day. He only talked in impersonations of WWE wrestlers and then asked me to go to WrestleMania with him and his entire family later that night. You seriously didn't go? Dated a woman who didn't tell me she needed meds because she was psychotic. In the middle of dinner at a restaurant, she got quiet and distracted. I asked if she was feeling okay. Apparently one of the voices told her I was a horrible person and she pulled a steak knife on me. A customer was able to talk to her and got her to put the knife down. The police were called and she was arrested. I didn't press charges, and about a week later, she sent me a letter with proof that she's been in counseling for a long time, takes medication, and included a heartfelt apology. We met at Applebee's, and she brought a friend with her, which was odd, because this was a first date. Then she invited me to her place for more drinks. She lived in a single wide trailer that was in the backyard of her parents' place, which was also a single wide. She went to her room and shut the door, and I was left there by myself. In the morning I left, and her dad was shirtless watching me leave, and yelling at some dogs that I think were trying to attack me. We met at Applebee's. That is all you needed to say. The guy played Dance Dance Revolution for a good 45 minutes, while I just stood there. I left and played a couple arcade games by myself, then came back, and he was still playing. On the car ride home, he asked how many children I wanted and started suggesting names for our kids. Then tried to make out with me when I got home. Nope, good BE. This chick suggested we go to this experimental art exhibit thing. It had a giant ball pit for adults, among other things. Pretty interesting to have two 30-somethings in a ball pit for a date. Fun time. That sounds great actually. Yeah, we had a blast. She ended up ghosting me like a month later. I went on a date with a guy. He invited me over to his apartment. Little did I know that it was a basement apartment, so the air was awful, it was under reconstruction, and no daylight. I felt weird, so I sent my location to few of my friends just in case, if he wanted to kill me. It went well. He didn't kill me. I sucked his dick and left. Had to cover for a friend's teaching when I had a date planned. But instead of rain checking, she decided to come to the class with me and pretended to be a graduate student so to walk around and give kids bad advice. She has wit 10/10. Going out again tomorrow. We were going mini golfing and the dude picked me up wearing a full-on tux. It was so odd and everything about the date was uncomfortable. After weeks of chatting online, we went on a first date and she took her sister and the sister's boyfriend with her, and they wanted me to pay everything for them. I said sure, stood up and went home. He took me to a supermarket. I don't know why, but he had to start it somewhere, so it started there. That's just what the common people do. Matched with this girl on Tinder. I was convinced I was being catfished. We started chatting and eventually decided to grab a meal together. Everything was going well until she got suspicious of a guy sitting near us reading a newspaper. Turns out her ex's family had links to the Bulgarian mafia and she thought this guy was a spy gathering info. She moved 1000 plus kms away from him and had a restraining order against him, but he still managed to get signals and messages to her. Needless to say, I felt like I was walking around with a target on my back. We never saw each other again. The guy talked and talked and talked all evening about himself, his parents' divorce, his ex's sex preferences and his depressed best friend. And he joked about murdering me. And at the end he told me he lived at his mom's, but I can come by if I want to. This thread makes me feel a lot better about my own social skills. I matched with a girl on Tinder. We hit it off in conversation right away and arranged a date at a tea place. We get there and the conversation seemed to be going alright until she asked me if I was fine with her doing some drawings. She proceeded to draw the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, occasionally asking me what my thoughts were on them. Aside from that, the time was spent in silence. The drawings were really good, but I wasn't into the date, so I left. After dinner, back to my place and watch a movie actually meant going back to her place and watching a movie, The Notebook. Probably the 10th time she had seen it. Did you date my wife? Lol. Yes. A Tinder date. The dude is kinda awkward, but seems nice enough. We go to my place, daytime, and he starts acting weird. He wants to play a card game where the winner gets to make the other person take off an article of clothing. Of course he wins his own game and asks me to take my shirt off. I'm already done with this whole thing, so I say no thanks. He keeps pressuring me until I do. As soon as I take it off, he starts touching himself without taking anything off and jizzes in his pants in 0.2 seconds. Most awkward situation of my life. Met someone online and we decided to meet in person for a date. It was awkward for the first few minutes, but then she just said I can dab if that will make it less awkward, and then proceeding to do so. There was no second date. Not me, but years ago a friend had me go with him and a girl on their date because she spoke Spanish and didn't understand a word of English. I had to translate for them, so there I was sitting in between them the whole night. It was really awkward. I'd never do that again, but safe to say that nothing came of it. Not a date, but a girl I just met talked about how the sweater she was wearing was from her dead boyfriend, then said I looked like Zuko from Avatar and asked to marry me. Don't mind me just popping in to see if any of these stories are about me. Went on a first date with a girl once. We were walking around downtown and went into a mall for a while. While we were in the mall, she dragged me into 2 baby stores and told one of the store employees we were expecting. Then proceeded to ask me what our children's names should be and that I should start saving up for her dream house. I couldn't escape fast enough. When I finally got her back to her house, she was sitting in my car waiting for a kiss. After 5 minutes of awkward conversation trying to get her out of my damn car, I realize she isn't gonna get the hint. So I lean over. She thinks I'm going in for a kiss, and I pop the door open behind her and say goodbye. My first Tinder date. We texted for weeks and yeah, his English was broken, but it was okay because I understand that immigrant life as well. We decide to go on a ramen date and walk around Chinatown. I meet him. He's fresh off the airplane with a suitcase in hand. What I quickly realize is that all of those texts he sent me must have come through Google Translate because QT does not speak a word of English. We still have a wholesome, although quiet and awkward date. I went on a first date with a guy I had been talking to online for a while. We went to dinner and had a few drinks, and it was quite a nice date. When it was over, he offered to walk me to the nearby taxi rank and wait with me. As we were walking, we passed a little alleyway with some cute tables, candles, and potted flowers. Only, I didn't see it at first, and he commented on it, saying, "Wow, that looks like a nice alleyway." Needless to say, I started walking faster. A zoo after hours with a musician. That sounds quite romantic. During my bachelor degree, about 7 to 8 years ago, went out with this other student, and on our first date we decided to go watch a movie. At the ticket counter she was shocked when I paid my ticket and not hers. She told me kind of laughing, "Don't you ever do that again." I never did it again cause I never called her. I met a girl online, and when I met her in person I realized that she looked like my mom. When I asked her what her last name, it was my mom's maiden name. Then while we were sitting in a park I met her mom. First date. I didn't go on a second date with mom girl. A foreign exchange student. There was a huge language barrier and we could barely make conversation. It evolved to just awkwardly sitting across from each other sipping our drinks and munching on some appetizers. She drove me to my car, which was in a paid parking garage, and she would have to pay to get out. I went to give her a hug before getting out of her car, and she thought I was going for a kiss, so she stopped me saying not on first date. I just gave her a bewildered look, said goodnight, and got the fuck out of there. We wanted to watch a movie. I finished the movie by myself because he had to go to amputate a leg in a hospital. Definitely the weirdest reason I've had for cutting a date short. Within 5 minutes of sitting down to dinner, the lady whipped out a handwritten epic poem, at least 50 pages, about how she had broken up with her last boyfriend because he loved weed. She then proceeded to read the poem aloud in a crowded restaurant. This large girl wanted to go jogging with me after only knowing each other for about 2 weeks. Our first date was good, and she really wanted to jog with me. Since I run regularly, she had to stop every 25 steps to catch her breath. At least she was trying. It's the effort that counts, right? Well, yeah, I married her lol. Met a girl in a club and asked her out for dinner at a nearby restaurant. After I arrived, I found one of the waiters was a friend and had a chat with him. 20 minutes late, she barges in with some bags with clothes. Fine. Dinner starts, but 5 minutes in, the police arrive and arrest her for shoplifting. Thanks to my friend I was not arrested for being an accomplice. I still had to pay for her starter. My first official BF took me to his Christian church for our first date, and it was one of those scary churches where people throw themselves on the ground sobbing and convince the Lord is in them. Sure, take the pagan to a Christian church. Went on a double date with a friend of mine, some girl he matched with on Tinder, and her friend. An hour into the date, I lean over to talk to the girl's friend and she's literally sleeping at the bar. I spent the rest of the time on my phone while my friend made out with the first girl. A man about 10 years older than me, met on Tinder, went out for drinks. How phone rings, and he starts telling his friend that I'm his girlfriend. First date, no second one. Shows up hanging out the passenger side of friend's car. He had 6 beers, 3 shots, $75 meal and no wallet. I paid tab and dashed for my cab. He runs and jumps into my cab, gives cabbie address for other side of town. It's his dad's house. Dad's furious. I should have known he was on probation and alcoholic. Cab takes off. Cabs are booked up for an hour. Walk 20 kilometers home at 3 AM. Met a Tinder date at a bar. 2 sips into it, she says she wants to go back to her place. Within an hour, her sister friends me on FB and immediately propositions me unseen. Second, get the feeling there's some competition thing going on. No, I didn't. Went on a date with a girl. She convinced me to go to her art studio, painted on me naked with paintbrushes, and took nude pics of me for a collage. Then she gave me a sponge bath and we fucked. It was a blind date and we video chatted before meeting up, but she was laying down. I'm 5'5", and she must have been 6'5" or some shit. I should have asked her if she wanted to play hide the hobbit. Met a guy from Tinder, where his opening line was to ask how I thought the world was going to end, then to pull out a stack of note cards as I struggled to answer the question. The whole date was really weird, and we talked about what it would be like to bathe in Doritos, or how ancient Greeks used olive oil as lube. He gave me his business card in the end too, and told me contact him afterwards. I just remember being taken so off guard for the entire date. It was actually really funny. We've been dating for a while at this point though, so I guess it worked. Took a weekend off to go a show at a bar and had a day to rest. I got drunk and met a guy who took me out for tacos, and then apparently we took LSD and spent the next day tripping, and I woke up on Monday an hour before work in the middle of a rural county. I was a half an hour late and 6 months later I still have my job and I'm dating that crazy wonderful man. I had a double date with my crush and his girlfriend. That was weird. I went on a Tinder date where the guy pulled out a ukulele and sang First Date by Blink 182. The one where instead of going somewhere nice for lunch he suggested we get Macca's. He insisted I order first, so I ordered a Happy Meal, hold the toy, and he stepped in front of me and said back quote actually can I get the hot rod? Then he didn't order anything and sat there playing with his hot rod while I ate my burger and fries. It was a first date. We go to his place to watch a movie and when we get there his friends calls him on Discord. He answers and they talk for so long. I just sit in silence. When they are done we start the movie, but through the entire thing he is Snapchatting his friends and not only sending pictures but recording videos of him talking. It was very awkward. This was actually my first date ever. She was getting over a bad cold and had laryngitis, but she didn't want to cancel. So we went to Starbucks and I bought her some hot tea. Because talking was hard for her, she texted her responses and I responded out loud. It was kind of weird, mostly because I couldn't see her facial expressions, but actually pretty fun. We wound up talking like that for 3 hours. Showed up at a girl's house and she immediately started trying to sell me hers bucks so she could make rent. It was awkward after that,